My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 33 years old, and I teach music to kids in Portland, Oregon. It happened on a Thursday afternoon when my phone lit up with words that felt like ice water. Stay away from us. We don't need you anymore. It came from my mom. I stared at those words for a long time. My hands didn't shake. I didn't cry. I just typed back two simple words. Okay then. That was all. For so many years, I had given them everything I had. I paid for my sister's wedding. I bought my dad a new car when his broke down. I sent money every single month to help with their house payments. And now this. One message, and it was over. I had always been the different one in my family. The one who loved pianos and guitars instead of numbers and business plans. The one they never really understood. But this message was different. It was final. I wasn't going to beg them to take it back. When midnight came, my phone started going crazy. Calls, messages, voicemails. Everything. Mom's name kept appearing on my screen over and over. Then my sister called. Then my dad. They were scared, and I knew exactly why. I had been the one holding everything together with my money. And now I was gone. What happened after that changed everything I thought I knew about the people I called family. Stay with me to hear how this whole thing fell apart. If you've ever felt pushed away by the people who should love you most, hit that like button right now. Leave a comment telling me your story and subscribe so you can see what happens next. Growing up in Portland, my family looked perfect from the outside. My dad owned a company that fixed computers. He was really good at it. Everyone in town knew his name. My mom used to work as a nurse but stopped to take care of our home and help dad with his paperwork. My sister Katie, who is 3 years younger than me, was the favorite. Everyone loved her. They believed she would take over dad's business one day. And then there was me, Rachel Morgan, the weird one who didn't fit in. I loved music more than anything. While they talked about money and business deals at dinner, I was thinking about melodies and songs. From the time I was little, Dad told me what he expected. His computer business was our future, he would say loudly. You need to learn how it works, Rachel. But I didn't care about broken keyboards or computer screens. I wanted to write songs and teach children how to play instruments. I wanted to fill the world with beautiful sounds. When I was in high school, I spent all my free time writing music in old notebooks. I imagined concerts and recording studios. When I told Dad I wanted to go to music school, he looked at me like I was joking. That's just something you do for fun, not real work, he said. His voice was cold and mean. Mom looked away and said nothing. She was already picking his side over mine. When I turned 18, I applied to a music college in Seattle. The letter came saying I got in, and I felt so happy. But Dad's reaction crushed my heart into pieces. If you're not joining my business, don't expect any help from me, he said with his arms crossed tight. No money for school. Nothing. Mom nodded and agreed with him. Her silence hurt more than his words. Katie, who was only 15 at the time, smiled like she had won a prize. I felt invisible in my own house. Their love for her was so obvious it hurt to watch. I worked 3 different jobs to pay for school. I cleaned offices at night. I served food at a busy restaurant. I gave piano lessons to little kids on weekends. I was tired all the time, but I kept going. Student loans piled up like a mountain, but I didn't give up. Dad never once asked how I was managing. Mom would sometimes say she was proud of me, but it felt empty. Because right after she would talk about how amazing Katie was doing at the business. Katie could mess up anything and they would say it was fine. She was learning. But when I missed one family dinner because of a big music exam, Dad gave me a long lecture about family loyalty. I remember one Thanksgiving when I came home from college. Katie had forgotten to lock the business office and someone stole expensive equipment. It cost thousands of dollars to replace. Dad just shrugged and said she was still learning. But when I was late to dinner because my music group had a performance, Dad yelled at me for being selfish. The gap between us grew bigger every year. Dad focused everything on Katie, the daughter who would carry his legacy. It didn't matter that she didn't really care about the business. Mom followed whatever Dad said. Her kindness was saved only for Katie. I tried to stay close to Mom. I called her every weekend. I sent her recordings of songs I was working on, but her answers were always short and distracted. Katie is helping at the office, she would say, like it was the most important thing in the world. I wanted to scream and ask what about me, but I kept quiet. I thought maybe one day they would finally see that I mattered too. By the time I finished school, the distance between us was impossible to ignore. I had built a real career teaching music and performing at local venues. But at family gatherings, they only talked about the business. When are you going to stop playing around and join us? Dad would ask like my whole life meant nothing. Katie would make jokes about my silly songs and Mom would smile and never defend me. Their favoritism wasn't just something I imagined. It was a thick wall, and I was stuck on the outside. Looking back now, those years set up everything that came later. I kept trying so hard to make them see me, to prove I was worth their love. But the more I tried, the clearer it became. They had chosen Katie, and I was just the backup daughter they didn't want. After music school, I put all my energy into my career. Seattle had taught me to dream bigger, to turn sounds into feelings that people could connect with. Back in Portland, I started small. I gave piano lessons in community centers. I performed at coffee shops and small theaters. My big break came when I was 28. A children's theater hired me to write all the music for their shows. My songs were catchy and emotional, and parents loved them. Soon other theaters and schools were calling me. By the time I turned 31, I was making really good money. I was signing contracts to write music for TV shows and online videos. My name, Rachel Morgan, started showing up in local entertainment news. People respected my work. But at home with my family, things were completely different. For years ago, my dad got really sick. The doctors said he needed surgery and special treatments. It was going to cost a huge amount of money. His business wasn't doing well, and insurance didn't cover everything. I didn't even think twice. I sent money for his hospital bills. I paid for his medications and doctor visits. "We'll pay you back," Dad said on the phone. His voice was flat and emotionless. But I knew that would never happen. Mom sent me a short text. "Thanks, Rachel." That was it. No phone call. No real appreciation. It hurt, but I told myself I was doing it because I loved them, not because I wanted something back. Then there was Katie. My sister had tried to start her own business selling handmade soaps. It failed after just a few months. She owed money to suppliers, and her credit cards were maxed out. She couldn't even help with the family business anymore because of her debt. Dad called me one night. His tone was businesslike and cold. "Katie needs your help," he said, like it was my responsibility to fix her mistakes. I transferred the money. $40,000 to clear her debts and another $15,000 to keep the business running smoothly. Katie never thanked me. Not once. Instead, at a family picnic, she bragged to everyone about how she had figured everything out on her own. Like my money didn't exist. Dad put his arm around her and told her how proud he was. I stood there feeling completely invisible. I kept giving them more. When the business needed new computers and software, I paid for it. When Mom needed a special doctor in another city, I covered the travel costs and hotel rooms. Every single time, I hoped they would finally see me as someone important. But at family dinners, the conversation was always about Katie's potential or Dad's plans. My music career was never mentioned. One time I showed Mom an article written about my work in a local magazine. I thought she might feel proud. She glanced at it quickly and said, "That's nice, but Katie is working so hard at the business." I smiled, but inside my heart was breaking into pieces. This pattern kept repeating. I would call Mom hoping for a real conversation, but she would immediately change the subject to Katie or Dad. Dad never asked about my projects. He only called when he needed money. "The business is struggling this month," he would say, and I would send the funds. I felt more like a bank machine than a daughter. Katie acted like I owed her everything. "You're doing so well, so why wouldn't you help?" she said once. So casual, like all my years of hard work meant nothing. Looking back, I can see how foolish I was. I thought money would make them respect me. Every check I wrote, every bill I paid, was me trying to cross that gap they had built between us. But they took it all. Hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. And they gave me nothing in return. Not even a thank you. The pain built up inside me. Quiet but heavy. And I started to wonder if I would ever be good enough for them. For years into my music career, I had a big idea. My work was going really well, and I wanted to start something new. A music program for kids who couldn't afford lessons. I wanted to bring instruments and teachers to schools in poor neighborhoods. It wasn't just a dream. I had a real plan with budgets and research showing how many kids needed this. I needed money to make it happen, and for the first time I thought maybe my family would support my vision. I put together a whole presentation with slides and numbers. I invited them to meet at a restaurant in Portland. I stood at the table with my laptop open and everything ready. Dad sat across from me with his arms folded. His face showed nothing. Mom was next to him fiddling with her napkin and avoiding looking at me. Katie sat there texting on her phone, barely paying attention. Her husband Mark was quiet beside her. He gave me a small, encouraging smile. I took a deep breath and started explaining. I talked about how music changes kids' lives, how it builds confidence and creativity. This could help thousands of children, I said. My voice was strong, even though I was nervous inside. I'm asking for $150,000. I'll pay back every cent with interest. Dad interrupted me before I could finish. This is a waste of time, he said, leaning forward. You think poor kids care about pianos. They need food, not music lessons. His words felt like a punch to my stomach. But I kept going. I showed him data about how music programs improve school grades and behavior. Katie laughed without even looking up. Sounds like throwing money away, she said. Why don't you stick to teaching your little classes? I felt my hands curl into fists under the table. My face was burning hot. I had worked for months on this plan, and they were dismissing it like garbage. Mom stayed quiet. She rearranged the silverware on the table. That was her way of avoiding conflict. I turned to her, desperate for support. Mom, you've seen what I've done. You know I'm good at this. She paused and then said quietly, it sounds risky, Rachel. The business is what we understand. Her words hurt more than anything Dad had said. I had paid for Dad's surgery. I had saved their business. And still I was the outsider who didn't belong. Mark spoke up. His voice was gentle but firm. I think it's a beautiful idea, he said, glancing nervously at Katie. Music education is really important. For just a moment I felt hope. But Katie shot him an angry look, and he went quiet. He didn't say anything else. Dad waved his hand, cutting off any discussion. We're not wasting money on this, he said firmly. Katie is opening a second location for the business. That's where our focus is. Katie smirked at me like she had won some competition. I tried one more time. My voice got louder. This isn't charity, I said. It's an investment that will give back. I built my whole career from nothing. You know I can make this work.
Dad shook his head.
You chose your own path, Rachel. Family business comes first. Katie added, maybe if you had helped us more, we would take you seriously. I wanted to scream at them. I had given them hundreds of thousands of dollars. I had bailed them out over and over. And they still saw me as the silly girl with a guitar. The room felt smaller. The air felt thick and hard to breathe. Their rejection was suffocating me. I closed my laptop. My hands were shaking. Mark caught my eye as I got up to leave. He mouthed, I'm sorry, but it didn't help. Driving home, I replayed everything they said. Every word was a reminder that I would never be enough. Dad only cared about Katie. Always Katie. No matter how many times I proved myself, it didn't matter. Mom's silence was just as painful. She would always choose Dad's side. Even Mark, who saw the value in my idea, couldn't stand up to them. That night I sat alone in my apartment staring at my plan. I had poured my heart into it just like I had poured my heart into my family. But their rejection wasn't about money. It was about me. They didn't believe in me. And that hurt worse than anything. I didn't know it then, but that meeting was the start of the end. One night, after another tense family dinner, I heard something I wasn't supposed to hear. Everyone had finished eating, and I walked into the kitchen to get my coat. I was planning to leave. Mark was standing near the counter looking nervous. He glanced around and then pulled me aside. His voice was barely a whisper. "Rachel, there's something you need to know," he said, looking toward the dining room where Dad and Katie were talking. "Katie has been taking money from the business. A lot of money. That's why it keeps struggling." My heart dropped into my stomach. I knew the business had problems, but I thought it was just bad luck or poor management. "She's been doing it for years," Mark added.
His voice was shaking.
"I found hidden bank accounts. Fake receipts. She's been lying to your parents." I stood frozen, trying to understand what he was telling me. Mark looked terrified, like he had just betrayed his own wife. Before I could say anything, I heard Dad's voice get loud in the next room. I moved closer, staying hidden behind the wall. I listened carefully. "We need to finish updating our will," Dad said. His tone was serious and final. "Katie is the only one who really cares about this family. Rachel is off doing her own thing. She doesn't care about us." My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Mom said something quietly that I couldn't make out. Then she said, "But she's given us so much, Stephen." Dad interrupted her sharply. "Money isn't loyalty. Katie is our legacy. We're leaving everything to her. The business, the house, all of it." I felt like someone had knocked all the air out of my lungs. They were erasing me from their future. After everything I had done for them, I was nothing. I slipped out the back door without saying goodbye. My mind was racing. All those years of paying Dad's medical bills, covering Katie's debts, saving their failing business. And they saw me as the one who didn't care. I drove home in a fog, replaying Mark's confession and Dad's words over and over. Katie's stealing explained everything. The constant money problems, the unpaid bills I kept covering. And yet they were choosing her, rewarding her. The betrayal felt like fire in my chest. But I wasn't ready to confront them. Not yet. The next morning my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Stay away from us. We don't need you anymore." The words felt like a slap across my face. I stared at my phone. My hands were shaking. This wasn't just about the will. This was personal.
Mom.
The one person I thought might still care. She was shutting me out. I typed back "okay then," and pressed send before I could change my mind. My finger hovered over the call button, but I stopped myself. No more begging. No more chasing them. If they wanted me gone, I would give them exactly what they wanted. I opened my banking app and canceled every payment I had set up for them. Dad's medical expenses.
Gone.
Katie's debt payments.
Stopped.
The business bills. No longer my problem. Over the years, I had given them more than $400,000. Countless hours of my life spent working extra just to fund their lives. And they threw it back in my face. Cutting those payments felt like dropping a heavy weight I'd been carrying for years. But it also hurt. I wasn't just stopping the money. I was letting go of the hope that they would ever love me the way I deserved. As I sat there looking at the confirmation screens, I felt angry and relieved at the same time. Mark's words kept replaying in my head. Katie had been stealing for years. How long had they known? Had Mom and Dad been covering for her? Or were they completely clueless? Either way, their choice was crystal clear. They picked her over me. I thought about calling Mark to get more information, but I didn't. He had taken a huge risk telling me the truth. I wasn't sure if I could trust him completely. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mom's text burned in my mind. "We don't need you anymore." It wasn't just a message.
It was a statement.
They had made their choice, and I wasn't part of it. But I wasn't the same Rachel who used to beg for scraps of their attention. I had built my own life without their help. And now I was going to protect it. Their betrayal had started a fire inside me. And I wasn't going to let them burn me down. By midnight, my phone was exploding with notifications.
Calls.
Voicemails. Text messages. Mom's name kept flashing on my screen. Then Katie. Then Dad. They must have realized I cut off all the money. I didn't answer a single one. I sat on my couch watching the screen light up over and over. Each buzz made my chest feel tighter. After years of being their safety net, I had finally let go. And they were falling apart. Katie's first voicemail was full of anger. "How dare you walk away, Rachel," she said. Her voice was sharp and mean. You're abandoning us when we need you most. Abandoning them. I almost laughed out loud. I had paid off her debts, kept the business alive, and she had the nerve to call me the bad guy. Her next message was even worse. You're going to regret this, she said. Her voice was quiet and threatening. We'll get lawyers involved if we have to. I deleted it. My hand was steady, but my heart was racing. Lawyers for what? For saving them from her mess for years. Mom's texts started coming in like a flood, each one designed to make me feel guilty. How could you do this to your own mother? One said. After everything I've been through, you're turning your back on me. Another one said, I raised you better than this, Rachel. I stared at those words. She always knew exactly how to hurt me. She would remind me of the times we used to talk late at night, the moments I thought meant we had a real connection. But now it felt like she had been using me all along, not loving me. I didn't reply. I couldn't let her pull me back in. Dad's call came at 2 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. His voice came through the speaker loud and demanding. Rachel, you need to fix this immediately, he said like I was an employee who had messed up. The business can't survive without your financial support. You owe us that much. Owe them. I had given over $400,000. Years of my life. And they had written me out of their will. Dismissed my dreams. Chosen Katie even though she was a liar and a thief. I saved the voicemail. Not because I felt guilty, but because I wanted to remember who they really were. By morning the messages hadn't stopped. Katie sent another text. You're destroying this family. This is all your fault. I could picture her pacing around the house blaming everyone but herself for the disaster she had created. Mark called once, but didn't leave a message. I wondered if he was caught in the middle, knowing what Katie had done but too afraid to speak up again. Mom's next voicemail was softer, almost begging. Rachel, please, she said. Her voice was cracking like she was crying. We're family. You can't just turn your back on us like this. I wanted to believe she was sincere, but her text from yesterday still hurt. We don't need you anymore. Family doesn't throw you away like that. Dad's second call came in the afternoon. I picked up thinking maybe, just maybe he would admit they were wrong. Instead, he started yelling immediately. You're putting your mother's health in danger, he said. Her treatments cost money, and the business is failing. You need to step up and help. Not one word about the will. Not one word about Katie stealing. Not one word about how they had betrayed me. I held the phone tight. My voice was calm, but ice cold. I've been stepping up for years, Dad. I'm done now. He went quiet for a second. Then he said, you'll change your mind when you see what happens to us. I hung up. My decision felt stronger than ever. The attacks kept coming all week. Brandon sent another message trying to scare me. Everyone is going to know what you did, he wrote. They'll all see how you betrayed your own family. I rolled my eyes. Betrayed them. After I carried their weight for years. Mom sent another text trying to use my memories against me. Remember when I helped you practice piano when you were little, she wrote. I've always been there for you, sweetheart. But she hadn't been there. Not when I needed her to defend me. Not when they laughed at my career. Not when they chose Katie over and over again. I stayed silent through everything. Every message and every call was them trying to drag me back into their chaos. But I could see it so clearly now. They didn't want me. They wanted my money. I checked my bank account one more time. The canceled payments were confirmed. No more medical bills for Dad. No more bailouts for Katie. No more saving their sinking business. I had spent years thinking money would earn their love. But love isn't something you can buy. And respect isn't something you can beg for. By the end of that week, their panic had only gotten worse. Angry texts. Desperate voicemails. Empty threats. But I didn't give in. Not even once. I had made my choice. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to survive. I wasn't their ATM anymore. I was Rachel Morgan. And I was done being their backup plan. 2 weeks later, I agreed to meet them one last time. Not to fix things, but to close the door forever. I chose a quiet coffee shop in downtown Portland. When I walked in, I saw Dad, Mom, and Katie sitting at a table in the corner. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. Mark wasn't there. He had sent me a text saying he couldn't handle the drama. I understood. I sat down across from them. My back was straight. My mind was clear. I wasn't the same Rachel who used to beg for their approval. I started talking before they could. I sold my music program idea to a national education company, I said. My voice was steady and strong. They paid me $800,000 for it. Their eyes went wide. Their mouths opened in shock. But I didn't stop. I built that project from nothing, without any help from you. Even after you told me it was a waste of time. Dad's face went red. Mom looked down at her hands. Katie shifted in her seat, looking uncomfortable. I leaned forward. My voice got louder. I gave you everything I had. My money.
My time.
My trust. And you threw it all away. You chose Katie even after she stole from you. I didn't say Mark's name. I wanted to protect him. Katie's face turned bright red. You're making that up, she snapped. You're just jealous of me. You're trying to ruin everything. I didn't even blink. The bank records don't lie, Katie. I know exactly what you did. Mom's hand flew up to cover her mouth. But she still didn't say anything. Dad's voice was harsh and angry.
You don't get to judge us, he said.
You're the one who abandoned the family business. I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It was bitter and cold.
Abandoned you.
You pushed me away, Dad. You cut me out of your will. You called me disloyal. Mom tried her usual trick. Her voice was soft and pleading like always. Rachel, we're your family. You can't turn your back on us now. We need you. I looked straight into her eyes. You turned your back first, Mom. That text you sent me. We don't need you anymore. That was your choice. Not mine. She flinched. Tears started forming in her eyes. But I wasn't going to let her tears control me anymore. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. I'm done being your safety net, I said clearly. I deserve respect. Not guilt trips and manipulation. If you can't give me that, then we're finished. Katie scoffed and crossed her arms. You think you're so much better than us. You'll come crawling back. Just wait. I shook my head slowly. No, Katie. I won't. This is goodbye. I picked up my bag and started walking toward the door. Dad's voice came from behind me, cold and threatening. You're going to regret this, Rachel. Mark my words. I didn't turn around. I didn't respond. I just kept walking. The door swung shut behind me. My heart felt heavy, but also free. I didn't look back. Not even once.
A year went by.
I heard through mutual friends what happened to them. The computer business completely failed. They had to close it down and sell everything. Katie faced serious legal problems. Suppliers took her to court when her theft came to light. Years of lies and stolen money were exposed for everyone to see. Mom and Dad moved into a small apartment. Their big house was gone. Their reputation was destroyed. Their legacy was in ruins. Mark, I learned, had divorced Katie and moved to another state. He was starting his life over. I didn't reach out to him. That part of my life was closed. I moved forward. I poured all my energy into my music career. The money from selling my program gave me freedom. I hired other teachers. I opened music studios in 3 different cities. I started working with schools across the country. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, built on my own terms, not theirs. I found peace in setting boundaries, in choosing myself over people who never chose me. The pain from their betrayals still lingered sometimes, but it didn't control me anymore. Looking back, I learned something really important. Respect has to start with yourself. I spent so many years trying to earn their love. I thought I had to prove I was worth something. But no amount of money or sacrifice could change how they saw me. Walking away wasn't selfish. It was survival. It taught me to value my own worth, to walk away from people who hurt me, even if they're family. I hope everyone listening to this story understands that. Family isn't supposed to be painful. It's supposed to lift you up and support you. If it doesn't, then you have every right to let go. Thank you for staying with me through this whole journey. It wasn't easy to share, but it's my truth. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to set boundaries with your family? Leave a comment below and let's talk about it. Your stories matter. And I'm so grateful for every single person who listened to mine.